Good morning. The time is now 8:01, and we can go ahead and call this committee on appointments to order. Good morning, colleagues. So we've got, I'm filling in today for Commissioner Purdue, who is going to be gone from today, and our city clerk is doing some city business this morning. So we have Daniel filling in. Thank you. You're doing two roles today. So the good news is we don't have a very large agenda, but we do have our current board and commission vacancy list. And I know, Commissioner Robbins, we talked at the last meeting about a few things. I know you had talked about, and since then, like a South Division Corridor Improvement Authority.
Yep.
So I think that's probably going through a process right now.
Yeah, we, I believe, I thought we had 2 openings on that one. Am I misremembering?
It is showing 1, but he's got the super special list over here. And then a reminder, colleagues, let's go back to see if we had any resignations for today. No resignations for today? Okay.
And then I'm showing just the one.
Okay.
I'm showing just the one vacancy on South Division, Granville.
That's okay. I must be misremembering. But yeah, we do have some interest there. I believe we should have PIFs coming through any day, if not already.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Robbins. And, I think we're going to be, how many days is it till the end of the year? Not a lot. And so a reminder that many of these are mayoral appointments. Many of these are city commission appointments. And so, unfortunately, our mayor will be term limited at the end of this year. So a reminder to anybody who might be watching, who is on a board, those are subject to that approval process. And, just because you're on this year for whatever term you are, there could be changes for a variety of reasons, getting different perspectives, different opinions, different developments that might be happening, especially in our corridor improvement authority. So thank you for your work on that, Commissioner. I think some of the priority areas, if you could go back up to the top, Daniel, I think our Board of Zoning Appeals, if you could, I know this is an alternate, but I also know this is a board that is a quasi-judicial board and, does need to meet when an issue comes forward to that body from Planning Commission. Could you send us any updated PIFs for this one? And I know you do send it to us every week, but sometimes if we're not thinking about it. So let's prioritize Board of Zoning Appeals. The mayor and I talked about the Affordable Housing Fund Board, and I don't know whose appointment this one is, Daniel. That was the question I had.
Believe this was a third ward appointment. I can pull that up as well.
Okay, thank you.
Correct. Third ward
This is a
commissioner.
third ward, okay. So let's follow up with Commissioner Goey today, Commissioner Robbins, and just see, and then this was not one that probably was as known as other bodies. So Daniel, if there are any new PIFs that have been, that are active from the last year, if you could send those, actually, if you could just send those directly to Commissioner Goey and Commissioner Perdue, we'll just follow up with them and let them know, but since that is their appointment. On our Community Relations Commission, I know that this body has a different process, which includes some additional vetting, and those names have been sent to the mayor, and I know she is reviewing that as well. Again, given the time and the dynamic, just want to make sure that we go through that process appropriately if we're going to ask individuals to come on and just understanding their perspectives. So that is another one. If you keep scrolling down, I think I'm not sure how long those ones have been on there, but I don't think they've been on there that long. Are those?
These, I do believe these are.
Are these like reappointments that were just?
Correct.
Got it.
Have been in flux for some time.
Okay. If you could follow up after this meeting, and if they're not that, will you let us know? But if we don't
Absolutely.
hear from you, we'll confirm we're good. Commissioner Robbins, I know you mentioned that you might have somebody also for the Civilian Appeals Board. I know when you and the mayor and I met, and then the mayor, so Commissioner O'Connor and the mayor both have an appointment.
Okay. Yeah, I can follow up with Commissioner O'Connor. And then, yeah, there is somebody who's, interested in the mayoral's appointment for that board as well.
Great. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to skip over a few of these and go to the Housing Appeals Board. These are, again, two alternates, but also very much needed as they are adjudicating different cases. If you can send us any new PIFs for this one, Daniel. And then, again, even though these are mayoral appointments, I'm just going to put a note to reach out to Ms. Bohach, too, since she is the liaison. Next, the Michigan Street Corridor, I believe we had a resident appointment that was going through the process, but again, it has to go through a rigorous process. So we don't like to share the names until they've gone through that process. So if I can follow up with you off dais about that name and just see where they're at, that would be great. And then our North Corridor Improvement Authority, I don't think we've had any new PIFs there, but we do have those two openings. And so there's a couple of events that we're sponsoring over the next couple of months. One is, side note, but fun note, is the smallest gay pride parade that's going to be happening in our Creston neighborhood on Plainfield on September 8th. And so I know we're doing some outreach at events like that. Art Bash is coming up as well, so I'll put that consign that to myself. We just talked about South Division. Southtown, I know the mayor and I talked about this one as well. There are a few business owners that she's hoping to bring on that body. And Commissioner Perdue, of course, does serve on there. And then the Uptown Business Improvement District and the CIA. Again, this is a pretty, they have support. Ingrid does a great job. But if you could send any PIFs for that one, Daniel, too. I know they have been really just focused on supporting some of their small businesses in that corridor. And then the last one I think I have something on is urban agriculture. Myself, the mayor, and Connie Bohach did speak a little bit about this. Because we have language that is really specific to where the individuals are coming from, that is both a positive and can be a challenge, because it's a little bit more narrow of an appointment, and also just reviewing the work of this body. So I think that's okay that we have these remainders right now. They're obviously remainder through the end of the year. If you remember, they did some significant work updating our backyard chickens and some of the bee apiary work this past year. And so we're going to be evaluating that and just getting their feedback about what that body also hopes to see and accomplish. And then Commissioner Robbins, is there anything on West Side Corridor? I know Commissioner O'Connor serves on that, but you're active.
Yeah, yep, that's Commissioner O'Connor's body that he serves on. I did send out some asks this past week too, so I'll just keep following up until I find some interest.
Okay. And I know, especially with some of our corridor improvement authorities, there may be interest, but especially with West Side and Southtown, these are very large CIAs, and we are making sure that there's a representation of the individual business districts.
Yep.
So while somebody might have put something forth, if they might not be in that business district, we might ask them to hang out a little bit,
Sure.
right?
Yep.
Okay. And I think Stockbridge was a priority in this area.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so we got some activities to do.
I have my orders.
And so, thank you, Commissioner, for taking on some of that. So I have you down for CAB. I'll follow up about affordable housing. We will be having an update about our land bank today and at our Brownfield Authority, I believe. So even though it's not exactly the same, I think maybe somebody who might have some background there, and some of our CIAs. So we know that those can be challenging sometimes because our business owners are busy being entrepreneurs. But we really want to make sure we're reflective of property owners and business owners. That is what the authority language calls for. And then we said there were no resignations?
Correct.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. And then lastly, just as a note, we talked I think at the last meeting about the liaison pieces. Again, noting that every liaison individual might have some different perspectives given the type of body that they have. But is there, I wanted to check back in and like the completion rate of the PIFs to be considered
End of year.
for, yep.
So there are just not quite a few, but there have been maybe 3 or 4 individuals that are not seeking reappointment.
Okay.
So those will come forward as vacancies in the new year. But there is a good push of, I would say, 60 to 70% of currently serving members that have indicated interest in reappointment.
Okay. And I think we'll continue to work with the mayor. Obviously, we're about 70 days from the election. We'll probably, then after that point, hopefully not too late the next day, but we'll know what that status is. And I know the mayor will be working with the 2025 incoming mayor because technically those appointments would be for 2025. And probably as we can see here, about 80 to 90% of the appointments are mayoral. So we've got to strike a good balance of the timing of who turns it in and also what the new mayor and who the new mayor may want, and then getting them on the agenda so that they can hopefully seat for potentially January meetings.
Certainly.
So let's process engineer that and remember all the things we have to do. So it's a little bit, it's the same appointments process, but I think it's nuanced with some of the dates, and I want to keep reminding ourselves of that. Anything else, Commissioner Robbins?
Yeah, can we jump real quick back up to urban ag?
Absolutely.
Have we engaged at all with the farmers market that meets down at Roosevelt Park?
We did, when we talked about this role, we said the language was not narrow. It was not narrow enough to say Fulton Street Farmers Market.
Okay.
So we did put it out to sort of their collective group to say if there's really anybody from any farmers markets that want to come through. Creston now has one actually too. Well,
Okay.
their season has ended. But I think the language is broad enough that any farmers market could be represented.
Okay. I think that one's been open for a while, right? So
This has been
Could be
open
worth
for a
reaching out.
while, and we have probably on the record here a number of times and an email asking them to send somebody. We've been
Yeah.
told that they don't have the capacity or don't know of anybody in their network that has the capacity. And I think that's probably what we need to figure out with this body. I think that, this is a 13-member body. For example, Vital Streets, I think that was a 23-member body. We went down to 13. So either what's the charge as we go into, term limits going into effect, as well as what are the core responsibilities of this body? Is it 13? Is it 9? Because then, as you know, it can be challenging for
Yep.
our groups to meet and we know there's a lot of work that gets done, and we don't want people to do that without decisions being able to be made.
Yep.
So,
Yep,
thank you for
agreed.
that question.
Yeah, and if language is broad enough, permitting, I am happy to reach out to maybe RPNA and see if they know of anybody, because I know they're pretty involved, I think, with the farmers market
Okay.
down there, just to see if there's any interest.
I think it would be perfectly fine to reach out to them proactively and just
Okay.
say, and I didn't even think about Creston until right now when you said that either. So, yeah.
Great.
All right. Anything else?
That's it for me.
All right. Anything else, Daniel,
No,
that you
ma'am.
would add? Patrick, anything that you want to add? No, you're like, don't ask me anything. All right. It's now 8:15, and we can go ahead and adjourn this committee on appointments. Thank you.
Everyone. We will call the Fiscal Committee to order here at 8:30. First item on the agenda this morning is a resolution approving an agreement with the U.S. Green Building Council, West Michigan, to accept $90,363 for funding for the Administrative Analyst 1 position, Healthy Sustainable Buildings Policy Specialist, as part of the Equitable, Healthy, and Zero Carbon Buildings Initiative.
So moved.
Support? Ms. Wilkinson, good morning.
Good morning. This resolution is to approve an agreement to accept WEGI Foundation dollars in our partnership with the U.S. Green Building Council for our EH0 initiative, so equitable, healthy, and zero carbon buildings, focusing on programs and policies. These dollars will help fund our Healthy and Sustainable Buildings Policy Specialist through the rest of this fiscal year.
Very good. Questions? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you so much. Item 2 is a resolution accepting a grant award from accepting a $750,000 grant award from the Right Place Incorporated for improvements to Canal Park.
So moved.
Support? Parks Director, Mr. Marquardt.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is a part of the $100 million the Michigan Legislature appropriated for placemaking grants across the state of Michigan, $750,000 of which was awarded to the Canal Park project. This project will be going under construction this next season and is anticipated to be roughly a $7 million project for expanded path connections, a new outdoor pavilion shelter, and a new entirely new play space for this important park.
Very good. Questions?
Quick question, Mr. Marquardt. So you said next season. So it's like this is, can you confirm the dates? Because somebody will ask me about that.
Yeah. We anticipate getting under construction early spring as soon as the weather allows.
So early spring of 2025.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
All right. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, sir. Item 3, resolution authorizing a budget substitution from Infrastructure Improvement Program to Ferris System and WRF groundwater treatment projects in the amount of $1.2 million.
So moved.
Support? Morning.
Good morning, Commission. What we have here is a resolution authorizing the budget substitution from money that was de-obligated from capital improvement projects and put into our IIP fund. These projects were originally intended to be funded through bond proceeds, but through the de-obligation process, we've been able to free up the cash, and we'd like to put in the substitution to pay for it that way.
Very good. Questions? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 4 is a resolution authorizing a contract with Thomson Reuters for legal research databases for a 3-year contract not to exceed $61,140.
So moved.
Support? Mr. Tom.
Thank you. Not often that we have an item in front of you, but this is for our general research technology that we've been using for several years now, more commonly known as Westlaw. This is a 3-year contract, and it provides access to all of our attorneys in all 3 of our legal divisions to do the legal research we need to give you good advice.
Very good. Questions? All right. Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 5 is a salary ordinance amending Section 3 of Ordinance 2024-06, new classifications, alternative sentencing coordinator, and alternative sentencing coordinator specialist.
So moved.
Support?
Good morning.
Good morning.
The 61st District Court has requested the Human Resources Department assistance in reviewing and establishing class titles and ranges for 2 new roles, the Alternative Sentencing Community Service and the Problem-Solving Court Coordinator. The positions will replace those previously known as work crew supervisors as the court is transitioning to a new form of alternative sentencing, moving from a work crew program to a more diverse and individualized community service model, prioritizing rehabilitation, community contribution, and alignment with defendant needs. The Budget Office confirmed this will not impact the court's budget, and Human Resources endorses the adjustment.
Very good. Questions?
Thank you, Ms. Bowers-Payne. Did we discuss this one at Civil Service?
Court positions do not go through civil service.
Okay, thanks for reminding me. All right, I'm good.
All right. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 6, salary ordinance amending Section 3 of Ordinance 2024-07, new classification, deputy court administrator.
So moved.
Support?
Here again. Human Resources Assistant was requested for class titles and ranges for reclassification of existing Community Service Work Program Supervisor position for the new title of Deputy Court Administrator. The positions replace Community Service Work Program Supervisors as the court transitions to a new form of alternative sentencing. The Budget Office has confirmed this will not impact the budget, and Human Resources endorses this recommendation.
Very good. Questions? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you so much. Item 7, ordinance amending Section 1 of Budget Ordinance 2024 for fiscal-23 for fiscal year 2025, amendment number 2.
So moved.
Support.
Good morning, Commissioners. This first one is, to put simply, we have 2 positions, 2 police officer positions that were part of a grant program. We informally called it the St. Mary's or the Mercy Health grant. We actually never utilized this grant, so never actually went for reimbursement for it, nor had we never budgeted for them. So they were just 2 unfunded positions on our roster that we were going to utilize when the police department was able to staff up. They were never able to get to that staffing level to be able to staff these positions. So these have just been for the term of the contract, and we have that understanding with St. Mary's, but the contract we have with St. Mary's does expire at the beginning of September, so these 2 positions would come off the roster, realizing that there is a need to hire an emergency communications supervisor. We handled the hiring dispatch during the budget process, but we realized that we have a gap with our ECSs. So we're going to add one emergency communications supervisor position, remove one of those unfunded police officer positions from the roster. For that second St. Mary's position, we do plan on deobligating or removing that from the roster as well. Because we are crossing departmental lines, we are adding some budget from fund balance of just over $92,000. Number 2, the MyCols funding for mandatory in-service training. This is $132,500 into the police grants fund. Number 3, for the dispatch department, this is the 911 public safety answering points grant, $115,378 in the police grants fund. From the Office of Sustainability, we did just get done discussing and voting that one. That's the addition of the one admin analyst 1 position to the permanent roster. Commissioner O'Connor, per our discussions on grant funded positions, as always, we do write into the position that the budget amendment that when the grant funds expire, this position would also roll off the roster. And we are doing work on language on that policy we're requesting. So stay tuned for that, but that's what's going on with this one. Number 5, the Information Technology Department. This is for security camera system infrastructure carry forward, $253,000 with it's just a carry forward from prior year. So, that's going to have to be pulled from retained earnings. And then number 6, in June, I believe I brought forward our contract amendment with the Oracle implementation project. So this is the appropriating the money associated with that. That was for $2.4 million. That's going to be appropriated with a corresponding decrease in fund balance. We are using ARPA project or ARPA funds to fund that as well. Our contingent balance remains unchanged at $1.5 million.
Questions? Just a question about number 6. Does that increase the total scope of the project even higher than it was originally?
Yes.
So it's
Yeah. So
$3.7 million on top of the $12 million we already spent?
No. Sorry. No, this is just amending that project. I believe all in. I will go down to the actual amendment, but I think all in we're still around 11 million if that serves. It's what we discussed in June, so I can pull up that.
So the total project cost hasn't changed?
All in. Sorry,
It's changed twice, but I mean this doesn't change it.
No, this isn't a third change. This is just catching up to what we discussed in June.
Okay.
So yeah.
Very good. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 8 is our bid list resolution for August 27, 2024.
So moved.
Support. Any items on here that you'd like to bring up?
No, I don't have any.
All right. Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 9 is our comptroller's warrant report for June 31, 2024 through August 11, 2024, and the monthly travel report. We'll turn to our deputy comptroller. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the period of July 31st through August 11th, the city released cash payments totaling $153.7 million, including approximately $228,000 for income tax warrants. In terms of quantity, we issued 602 income tax refunds and 660 accounts payable checks and electronic payments. The detail for all payments issued in excess of $20,000 are included in your materials. Also included in your material is the travel report for the first month of fiscal 25. This report, which is broken down by department, showing we have so far spent $45,000 for the fiscal year compared to approximately $81,000 we spent at the same time period last year. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have on the materials presented.
Very good. Questions for the comptroller? All right. Hearing none, those reports will be received and filed. And our final item is the treasurer's report for the period August 1, 2024 through August 13, 2024. Mr. Treasurer.
Good morning, Commissioners. With our report today, we're showing that the economic conditions have been improving. And when I say improving, that we're seeing the costs are coming down. As you would have seen in the headlines, I'm sure over the last week especially, you were seeing that the indicators are that the adjusted jobs market down by 800,000 jobs created that they thought. So really the jobs market is starting to change. Impacts on inflation are starting to change, and Chairman Powell this past week talked about when rate cuts are starting. So we are pretty much 100% probability that we're going to have a minimum of a 25 basis point rate cut in September. Again, if academic conditions change, they can adjust that as they get to that point. But right now, you've got market participants are wildly just trying to determine whether it's going to be 1 cut, 2 cuts, 3 cuts before the end of the fiscal year, or calendar year, I should say. But we do know that those are coming. So right now, we're at $762 million roughly in our portfolio, and we're earning purchase yield is 3.6%, but our actual yield is closer to 4.8.
Very good. Questions for the treasurer? All right, hearing none, that report will be received and filed, and we will conclude fiscal at 8:42. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
right, good morning, everybody. It is approximately 9:15 this morning. We'll go ahead and get our Community Development Committee meeting underway. We've got 12 items of business today, so jumping right in, to start, item number 1 is a resolution approving a fireworks discharge permit to Marsh USA LLC for a fireworks discharge permit at 20 Monroe in connection with the GLC Live at 20 Monroe event on September 12th, 2024. Do I have a motion?
So move.
All right, moved and support. Good morning.
Aloha. It's just a cold spark display at the 20 Monroe event, or event center.
Okay, great. Any questions, colleagues? All right, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That carries. Item number 2, similarly, is a resolution approving a fireworks discharge permit for Pyrotechnico Fireworks Incorporated at Gillette Bridge in connection with Art Prize on September 13th, 2024.
So move.
Support.
Moved and supported.
Okay, should be a good display, almost the same size as 4th of July, so.
That's great. It's crazy that it's already Art Prize time.
Yeah.
Any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 3 is a resolution approving an agreement with the Michigan Department of Transportation for a congestion mitigation and air quality grant for the Traffic Management Operations Center with a total cost of $670,000.
So move.
Support.
Moved and supported. We've got Mrs. Smith here.
Hi, so the Traffic Management Operations Center is the group that oversees signal operations for the entire region. This grant pays for the operations of the signals center and then also associated staff. You have $536,000 from the CMAQ and then another $134,000 that is the local match. That local match is already programmed in the mobile GR budget for this fiscal year and next, and that is all we have.
Great, thanks. And so is this one that the city's a recipient of, and then we have our other partners that we kind of like bill for or provide the funds to, I guess, to augment their staff, or am I not understanding that right?
No, I think you're correct.
Okay, great. Commissioners, any questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That carries. Item number 4 is a resolution confirming 2024 fiscal year 2025 Downtown Improvement District Special Assessment Roll 8,788.
So move.
Support.
All right, moved and supported. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm Lindsay Post, the Deputy City Assessor. So we are requesting, at the request of the Downtown Improvement District Board, the Assessor's Office prepared the Special Assessment Roll number 8788. This was in accordance with the district's plan that was adopted on May 9 of 2023. This is the second year of a 3-year plan. The property owners were sent notices on June 3rd, notifying them of their assessments. The special assessment roll has been open for public inspection for at least 2 weeks. That was starting June 3rd through July 16th. The commission held a public hearing on the July 16th, and to hear the appeals, there were no appeals to date for that. So today we're requesting the confirmation of the special assessment roll, and if confirmed, the assessment will be invoiced on October 1st.
Great, thanks. Any questions, colleagues? All right, seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That carries. Thank you. Item number 5 is a resolution awarding a contract with Wyoming Excavators Incorporated for rotomill resurfacing of streets at various locations. Contract 2024-2 in the amount of $3,773,037, with a total amount not to exceed $4,988,465.
So move.
Support.
Moved and supported. We've got Mr. Berkman here.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
This is the second of 4 rotomill resurface contracts that we plan to put out. You previously awarded the last one, which was Contract 1, also to Wyoming. This contract generally covers the southern areas of the city and consists of 21 segments that will be milled and resurfaced as part of our Vital Streets program. Wyoming provided the low bid of 4 bids that were received, and that amount that was read of $3,773,037. That was under our engineer's estimate of almost $4.1 million. So requesting your approval of the award to Wyoming with that total amount not to exceed of $4,988,465 to come from the Vital Streets Fund. We are looking to begin work this year on Contract 1 and this Contract 2 to get a few street segments done, and then majority of it will take place next year.
Great, thanks. And this is different from last meeting's contracts, which I think were continuation. This is more of it went out for an active bid. We received. Okay. Yep.
Correct.
Great, thanks. Any other questions, colleagues? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That carries. Item number 6 is a resolution approving a construction agreement for 901 West Fulton in the amount of $25,000.
So moved. Support.
Moved and supported.
This agreement will facilitate installation of public water main and some storm sewer that will serve a rental townhome development occurring within the city. The project site is located north of Fulton and west of Deloney. Per the agreement, the developer will deposit $25,000 to cover the city's costs of services to be held in escrow, covering things like inspection, plan review, and administration, and request your approval.
Great, thanks. I know this lot was underutilized for a pretty long time, so excited to see something new there, and especially some housing too. So any questions or comments, colleagues? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That carries. Item number 7 is a resolution awarding a professional services agreement for construction management services to EV Construction for construction of Kendall Street Fire Station in the amount of $7,646,600 with a total amount not to exceed $8,193,530.
So moved. Support.
Moved and supported.
So we're anticipating a construction schedule of about 12 to 13 months for this new fire station to be located at the corner of Kendall and Kalamazoo. This resolution before you enters into the professional services agreement with EV Construction, who is previously selected through a qualifications-based process to be our construction manager on this project. So the resolution and the amount that was read establishes the guaranteed maximum price under which the construction manager will be operating, allows for site work to begin and bidding out of the entire project and procurement of those longer lead time items. So seeking your approval to enter into this agreement for those services with the EV and authorizing those additional expenditures in the amount of $7,646,600, which brings the not to exceed total to that $8,193,530 to come from the Capital Improvement Fund.
Great, thanks. Any questions or comments, colleagues? I know our third warders are extremely excited about this.
You bet.
Yep, and I saw the groundbreaking gets to take place here pretty soon, so
yes,
definitely very excited. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That carries. Item number 8 is a resolution approving an increase of $2,011,784 to the construction management agreement with McGraw Construction Incorporated for accessibility improvements at 300 Monroe Avenue Northwest for a total project not to exceed $3,195,070.
So moved. Support.
All right, moved and supported.
So on July 30th, you saw the first bid package associated with this project. This is now the second that will install an elevator with access to the Monroe level lobby to all 3 levels of the parking deck here at 300 Monroe, improving ADA compliant access to our parking garage. The elevator will be installed in that north stairwell that you currently see in the lobby off of Monroe, and then open up to each of the parking ramp levels. This second bid package encompasses the remainder of construction and establishes the guaranteed maximum price through the construction manager. Work includes masonry, some miscellaneous metals, electrical, fire suppression, mechanical, plumbing, drywall, painting, among others. And so the resolution before you increases the CM agreement, construction manager agreement that we already have in place with McGraw to encompass that. The increase in the amount of $2,011,784 brings the total not to exceed authorization to that $3,195,070. That financing will come from the Capital Improvement Fund, Kent County's Facilities Management Fund, and ARPA, as well as Parking System Fund dollars through Mobile GR. We anticipate a reimbursement from the county in the amount of $1,032,856 for their share of the project costs.
Okay, thanks. Any questions, colleagues? Just so I'm understanding. So this was an expected like second bid package, or is this in addition to like beyond the initial cost that we thought this was going to be?
Right. We planned for it to be a two bid package approach. So the first one we got to as quickly as we could because it included the actual elevator equipment, which had a 52-week lead time. So we wanted to start that clock rolling while these costs were being determined for the second bid package.
Okay.
Before you today.
Got it. Thanks so much. All right. Hearing no other questions, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that carries. Item number 9 is a resolution approving a facility encroachment agreement with CSX Transportation Incorporated in connection with improvements to the water system at various locations.
So support.
Moved and supported.
This relates to a project that was originally awarded on June 4th of this year to Diversco, where various valve chambers and water main work is underway as part of the water system's comprehensive master plan. And a portion of that work involves removal of a pressure-reducing valve that's located on 28th Street near where the CSX Railroad passes by bridge overhead. CSX is requiring approval of this encroachment agreement because their right-of-way corridor overlaps ours, which will include their review, insurance requirements, and flagging services, costs of which are estimated to be $3,200. There's no request for authorization of that because that'll be covered under contingencies already approved for the project, but seeking your approval of entering into this encroachment agreement with CSX today.
Got it. Thanks. Commissioners, any questions on that one? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. Item number 10 is a resolution granting a utility easement at 840 Livingston Avenue Northeast.
So move. Support.
Moved and supported.
So this request came from consumers to the water department just to install a new pole that includes some down guy wires and overhead power lines on the edge of the 840 Livingston property to better serve customers in that area. Water departments reviewed it and approved of this use, so it's before you today for your approval.
Great, thanks. Questions or comments, colleagues? All right, hearing seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? It carries. That will bring us to item number 11, which is a resolution approving a utility easement to Consumers Energy for the reconstruction of Division Avenue from Fulton Street to Michigan Street for nominal consideration of $1.
So move. Support.
All right, moved and supported.
So this is related to the utility project work that's currently underway on Division, as well as the anticipated reconstruction that will take place on that corridor next year. Consumers is seeking to install an electrical vault for their utility in an easement that would be located on the west side of Division at the 17 Pearl property, which is the former federal building that's currently still owned by the city, but it's occupied through a lease agreement by Ferris State with Kendall College of Art and Design utilizing that space. City, for background, previously approved a transfer of ownership to Ferris State back in 2019, which has not yet been completed due to ongoing approvals from the National Park Service and General Services Administration of the federal government, but it is still working its way through that process. So as the current property owner, the easement is coming to you for approval, but Ferris State has also indicated their concurrence and will be executing a lessee's consent as part of this overall arrangement.
Okay, thanks. Any questions, colleagues? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That carries. Our last item of business is item number 12, which is a resolution accepting utility easements at 5905 Broadmoor Avenue Southeast in connection with installation of water main replacement in 60th Street from Broadmoor Avenue to Executive Parkway and water main in Broadmoor Avenue from 60th Street to Patterson Avenue from 150 feet westerly of Broadmoor Avenue to Broadmoor Avenue, and in East Paris Avenue from Broadmoor Avenue to 40th Street for $55,379.
So move. Support.
All right, moved and supported.
I responded to 3 emails while you read. So this relates to a project that was previously awarded in July of this year that's installing new water main to connect to a new pump station that will provide service to Caledonia Township. The resolution accepts 2 water main easements on that property located at 5905 Broadmoor and authorizes payment for those 2 easements in that amount of $55,379, which will come from the water fund.
Got it, thanks. Colleagues, any questions on that one?
No.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That carries. That concludes our scheduled business items. It's approximately 9:29 in the morning, and we'll see you back in here for Committee of the Whole.
Good morning, everyone. We will call Committee of the Whole to order here at 10 a.m. and start the meeting with a resolution recommending approval by the Michigan Liquor Control Commission of a social district permit application pursuant to Public Act 124 of 2020 for Sipshine LLC located at 401 Stocking.
Support.
Been moved and supported, and we'll turn it over to Daniel, who's filling in for our clerk this morning.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. This license follows past practice, is what I've been told by our clerk. So if you have any questions, we can try and answer those as best we can.
Colleagues, any questions regarding this liquor license approval? All right, hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 2 is a resolution approving election day polling locations and early voting sites for the November 2024 general election and fixing inspector pay for early voting, absent voter counting board, and election day inspectors.
Support.
It's been moved and supported.
Excellent. Thank you again. We will have 4 early voting sites for our presidential election, 1 in each of our 3 wards, as well as a downtown location at DeVos Place, Hall B. There is one update to our precinct locations, and that is Precinct 11 will be at Crossroads Bible Church. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those at this time.
Colleagues, any questions regarding this item? I'm glad you found a home for 11.
Yes.
All right. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Our final item for consideration this morning is a resolution approving Art Prize as a special event from September 1st through October 7th, 2024.
So moved.
Moved and supported, and we'll welcome Ms. Pittman, our Director of Special Events.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thank you so much for having me. The attached resolution designates 2024 Art Prize as a special event in the city of Grand Rapids. Art Prize is an open, independently organized international art competition that celebrates artists working in all mediums that is accessible to any creative with artwork to enter in a venue willing to host it. The Art Prize organization produces open, citywide contemporary art experiences that encourage critical discourse, celebrates artists, transforms urban space, and promotes cultural understanding. Over 700,000 visitors are anticipated to attend and take part in Art Prize throughout the 16-day competition, bringing economic development and opportunity to the city of Grand Rapids. Catlin Whittington, the Executive Director of Art Prize, is here to share more about the Art Prize experience.
Hi, good morning.
Welcome.
Good morning. Morning, Commissioners, City Manager, members of staff. It's great to see you all today. Yeah, I have a presentation to share, so this one, there we go. Thank you all for having me. First, I want to underscore my appreciation for the support of the City of Grand Rapids and your continued confidence in our stewardship of this iconic event for the city. I will try to keep this brief, as I know you're running through the agenda pretty quickly here this morning, but I did want to share a little bit of a taste of what we can expect over the 16 days of Art Prize this year. So Art Prize 2024 runs between September 13th and the 28th of this year. Our mission is really to transform the art world through this radically open global art competition and cultural experience in Grand Rapids. And we hope that it will really start conversation and ignite creativity, discovery, and discourse about art, as well transforming the urban environment that we live in. As you all know, last year was the first year under a new leadership model, public-private partnership between Downtown Grand Rapids, Inc., the City of Grand Rapids, and Kendall College of Art and Design. And we're grateful to be under the good leadership. And you'll notice, as part of our steering committee, we have extended and grown our steering committee membership over the last year, since I last saw you about a year ago. So some highlights from 2023, as Yvette mentioned, 700,000 people visited Art Prize last year, but we had over 1.6 million come through the downtown district over those days. We awarded 400,000 in awards and 200,000 in grants to artists. But the big number, the number we're all here for, nobody buys a raffle ticket to win $2, is $54.7 million into the local economy last year, and that's new money into the economy through visitor spending. This was through a study by Grand Valley State University, and really proud of the impact and the boon that we've had for the local tourism economy and hospitality sector, as well as many others in our community that benefit from Art Prize. So this year, some things to be excited about. Our featured public projects, once again, these are large-scale installations that we are bringing in from around the country and indeed around the world to come and install during the days of Art Prize in our urban environment here. Again, we'll be giving out over $600,000 in awards and grants to artists this year. Some of the main purpose of our grant program is to help increase capacity for artists and the opportunity for artists to create ambitious works of art as well as to participate in Art Prize. It does take a financial commitment to come out for the 16 days and to get your artwork out here, and so we run these grant programs in order to really help build that capacity and that opportunity for participation. A new project this year is the Future Public Projects concept. So we awarded 5 grants at $5,000 each to create a maquette of what could potentially be a long-term permanent installation as a public work of art. Maybe not necessarily in Grand Rapids, although we hope that one of these will really shine and show themselves as being something that we can all envision in our community. And the interesting part is this allows the public to vote on these with us. And so we're asking the public to participate in the process of curating public art. Some other partnerships and considerations with organizations around have been grant related, including a partnership with the Hartside Business Association at Peckage Park to activate that space, a partnership with Art Winds in Arizona for our Arizona Pitch Night. That's the Arizona Pitch Night winner there, Cher Jurachich, in that photo, in that painting. And then Westside Corridor Improvement Association, we partnered with them to administer a mural grant. So this year we have over 950 registered artists, 873 entries, 170 venues. Our artists represent 35 states and 42 countries, and so we're really excited about the national and even international presence of artists that we're bringing to Art Prize this year. Here you'll see the map of the venues. We will have our online wayfinding map up shortly, but this is a representation of where the venues are. You'll notice some growth into the Uptown and Easttown area. Very intentional, as there's been a lot of new retail and hospitality restaurants and establishments over there in that district that allow the density of venues and the capacity there. So additionally, we have built up community partnerships this year. We did outreach to the corridor improvement associations, business associations, as well as community stakeholders. And part of that was actually to bring a concept of pop-up events and exhibits within different districts around town in order to highlight it without bringing the need to activate for all 16 days. So this was a very intentional outreach of trying to find engagement and interaction. We have a large representation of both local as well as BIPOC, LGBTQ, and/or artists with disabilities represented in our artist pool. And Art Prize has been working with over 30 community partners in mutual support on outreach programming, community events, and representation for our event this year. I think when I stood before you about a year ago, I heard that activation in some of the neighborhoods around town and with some of the community members maybe had not been as intentional in the past, and we've really worked this last year to be more intentional about trying to find representation and engagement with various community groups as well as neighborhoods and districts around. There's always work to be done, but I think we're pretty excited about the work that we've done this year. Some of the venues that our team is personally curating include the Priceless Gallery at 61 Commerce Avenue, City Hall right here. That wolf sculpture down there at the bottom will be here in City Hall. And the Morton on Monroe Center, the historic Morton Hotel. So we're pretty excited that our team has been able to actually activate these spaces and curate these spaces that have been underutilized in the past. It's going to make, well, I'm not saying City Hall is underutilized, but the Morton and Priceless Gallery have not been occupied buildings. All right, some of the events, and I'll speed it up a little bit here, but we have our signature events. These are the bookends of our overall event, as well as the intermission show, our halftime show. Last year we had that as a finalist celebration. This year we are throwing it as a halftime show. It'll be at Studio Park, and we actually have the Pack drumline coming in from Chicago to lead us in a true halftime celebration. You're all invited to the pregame as well. We'll let you know. You'll get the RSVP. And then some of our featured events. These are either events that are produced by us or in partnership with other community partners. You'll see a long list of different events here. Many of them are engaging with different community groups and community partners that we can either help to provide a platform and amplification for their events, and or partner with them in co-promotion and co-programming. So everything from the Grand Rapids African American Arts and Music Festival to working with Monk Recordings, Urban League, and the Center for Community Transformation on a breakdance battle, to partnering with the Grand Rapids Symphony and Atakun Roasters to have a artisan chocolate and symphony performance. So we have a wide variety of different events. We will have events all 16 days throughout Grand Rapids. Also worth noting in here, which I am remiss for not including a slide, we have over 3,500 students anticipated to come down on field trips. This year we were very intentional to start our early outreach to Grand Rapids Public Schools as well as Kentwood and Wyoming school districts to allow them the first pick of those field trip dates before opening it up statewide for field trips. So really excited about that intentionality of making sure that our community right here and the kids right here have the first option to come out and come on those field trips. All right, I'm almost done, I promise. Activations and activations. So activations, these are large-scale events, exhibits, spectacles that will take place over multiple days. These activations may also host events. So this is our Clubhouse and Priceless Gallery, as well as a large-scale activation that will be taking place at 45 Ottawa throughout the event. This year we are also bringing in featured exhibitions. So these are works of art, and they are exhibitions of art that are part of our experience, but they aren't necessarily part of the competition. They are not eligible for voting. So this includes the Z-Car by Zaha Hadid that's on loan from the Eli and Edith Broad Museum. The Gram will be open and free to the public all 16 days, and they will be featuring selected works of art from their collection from past Art Prize winners. And then Face It Together is an Art Prize exhibition taking place at the Amway Grand Plaza Hotel, a large-scale digital installation to help raise funds not just for Art Prize artists and grants, but also for cancer patients and their families in terms of financial and emotional support, partnered with New Day Foundation. All right, all that. Carlo McCormick is a New York art critic, and he shared this with me after a trip to Miami. He said, all that luxury and elitism of Art Basel would really make it evident to you how radical your democratic aesthetics are. But to state the obvious, we very much appreciate what you are doing with Art Prize. And it's great to hear that from someone who's really been engaged with the art scene for a long time, and for him to see what it is we're doing out here. All right, any questions?
Colleagues, we'll open it up. There's questions for Mr. Whittington. Commissioner Sassi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for the presentation, and thanks for referencing the commentary that we had last time, so I appreciate that. So. Yes. You did the homework.
All right, thank you.
It looked really good, and I think I was just down, obviously this is DGR, but it was at Return to the River, and just great to see the activation of people and connection points, so I'll look forward to be invited to the opening and the halftime show.
Awesome.
And while this is a question of like, how do we continue, having connection points across this, and so that it's not just something that we do with art, but how is it embedded and how do we support our overall economy? City manager, I know we had some conversations about some of our business districts that have had challenges related to the construction season. And we need to make the infrastructure, we need to invest in these pieces, but we also know that people are going to be coming to our city, are going to be looking for some things to do, and there's always something to do. And so I know that was just kind of last week, we had that connection point of how could we drive, especially in those business districts that have been especially impacted by construction this season, knowing that people will be coming in for this annual event.
First, let me thank Mr. Whittington for your presentation and our partners, Downtown Grand Rapids Inc. and Kendall College of Art and Design and all the other people who support this event. I agree with Commissioner Sassi. We've always said we wanted the impact from Art Prize to be as broad as possible around the city and certainly not just benefit one district or one neighborhood or area. And so while that was not the intent of the planning to focus on areas that are being impacted by construction, I think we could probably work with Ms. Behrens and our engineer to get those districts or those areas where we have projects to our folks at Art Prize and see if we can do some combined marketing of opportunities to experience the city between the two. And so I think that's something we can certainly look at doing.
Yeah, happy to explore amplifying any messaging going out about how to amplify and highlight those different districts around and business districts.
Thanks so much. Thank you both.
Any other questions, colleagues? All right, hearing none. Thank you so much for the presentation and all the hard work on our prize. And,
Great, thank you all.
Look forward to celebrating with you.
Excellent.
And with that, we will call the vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. The clerk did remind me that we do have a legal briefing downstairs after this meeting, so if it's all right with you all, we'll ask for a motion to go into closed session following Cow. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Support. Support, and a roll call vote. Commissioner Robbins?
Yes.
Commissioner Yasasi?
Yes.
Commissioner Knight?
Yes.
Commissioner Goy?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. 5 yeas, 0 nays. Motion carries. We'll go down to the law library, Phil?
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll be in the law library. Next up is a presentation and overview of the proposed City of Grand Rapids Land Bank Authority. And we'll welcome our Economic Development Director, Ms. Renero.
Mr. Chair and members of the commission, while Ms. Renero comes forward with the presentation, I wanted to just remind us and the public how we got to this point. If you can recall, prior to the pandemic, we did have a local land bank authority in our county, and Kent County commissioners decided that they wanted to dissolve that, and ever since we had to find ways to utilize another tool for housing affordability, and have been partnering with the state and working with them directly in doing so. Part of our legislative agenda over a few years ago wanted us to pursue some support or positive permissive legislation that would allow cities to establish their own land bank, because right now, as you may be aware, that authority resides at the county level. And we were successful in getting that legislative change. And as a result, because there's no land bank in our city at this time, if we are able to establish it, then we will be able to have our own locally controlled land bank. But the legislation does preempt municipalities from having one if there's one that's already in existence in the county. So our intent today is to continue our strategic effort of implementing the land bank as one of your strategic priorities with a briefing today, and we intend to come forth with an action item at our next meeting that will be the first step in the establishment of, the formal step in the vote and establishment of land banks. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Renero.
Thank you, City Manager. And thank you, Commission. Good morning. I wanted to introduce Joseph Rivet. Thank you for coming from Lansing, Executive Director of the State Land Bank. Will help field questions as we have them. I didn't turn it off this time. All right. Okay, so I want to just zoom out a minute. So Michigan is one of 17 states that have enabling legislation granting unique statutory powers that allow authorities. There are over 250 across the country, and in the state we have 51. So this gives us a lot of best practices to look at. And in Michigan, we had the authority in 2003, but as the manager just mentioned, that act was amended in 23 and effective in February this past year to allow Grand Rapids to become or to establish a land bank authority for two reasons. One, the manager mentioned, is that we are a city that's not located in a county that already has an authority. And then the second point there is that we are a qualified city because we are a population of greater than 50,000. The mention on the dissolution in 19, I just want to comment that that step really put in motion on the local side our strategic examination of the city's housing efforts, and in particular, had outputs including the housing needs assessment and establishing the affordable housing fund, which I think are relevant to the larger conversation here. The other couple of points on the slide, or the final point there, is that the City Commission may reserve rights, of course, within the Act to approve certain actions of the authority. And we are, based on our research, we've mainly seen that come into play on board composition. This is to give you more context around land banks and the opportunities that exist within establishing authorities. So, we can create an authority to acquire, hold, facilitate redevelopment of property to meet increasing housing affordability and stabilizing property values. We've really seen this as an economic development tool in other authorities and ultimately creating an increased value of real property across portfolios. To continue on with more information around land bank authorities more broadly, the powers are really broad, few limitations here. Among other functions, land banks can issue bonds, borrow money, hold title, clear title. Again, a great opportunity, a great tool for strategic local redevelopment when you think of property disposition. This will be a separate entity if we were to pursue an authority, and there are limitations built within the Act, the three that are listed there: acquiring properties that are occupied, competing with the private real estate market, and the intent to be a developer are all prohibited. So the reason that we are before you today is that we've really seen land bank services as identified as a way to achieve the city's strategic objectives regarding housing. We're looking at 107 parcels in the state land bank that are specific to the city of Grand Rapids, and want to evaluate these properties for strategic purposes that really are in concert with our master plan goals, our strategic plan, and also the equitable economic development and mobility strategy. When the county land bank dissolved in 2019, those functions ultimately created an interlocal agreement with the land bank and the city. This step would trump that, and we'd have a new interlocal agreement, and it would obviously transition those properties in that portfolio for the city's prioritization, provide quitclaim deeds expeditiously, reimburse and pay all property taxes and costs against properties. And the final point there is really around where we think this work can be situated and aligns nicely with some of the work that's already embedded in our real estate team in the Economic Development Department, and the collaboration with the Grand Rapids Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, which I want to just draw 2 points on quickly, because there are synergies between the land banks and Act 381, which is our land bank, or our Brownfield Redevelopment Financing Act, in that land bank properties are eligible property, and they also have eligible activities, including clearing title, and so there's a natural overlay here of work, and I want to make sure you're connecting that.
So we've distilled it down to 4 steps. I'm sure it's more complicated than that, but we have highlighted 4 here, with the next step really being what the manager mentioned around the city commission considering a resolution. We're recommending that this authority be situated in economic development and used as an economic development tool alongside our Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. I mentioned that the intergovernmental agreement with the State Land Bank Authority would have to be replaced and updated, and I want to give a shout out to Doug Booth, who's been helping think about that and draft agreements accordingly, and also helped with this presentation, so thank you, Doug. Commission would have to appoint a governing body. This has to be a minimum of 5 members according to the Act, and we are potentially recommending consideration of leveraging the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority Board because of the synergies with Act 381. I want to just mention that at the last Brownfield Redevelopment Authority Board meeting, we mentioned this concept of bringing this forward, and I've only talked to the chair about the possibility of the board being considered in that capacity. And so I don't want to get too far out ahead of the skis here, but want to mention just again the synergies there. And then the final step would be creating articles of incorporation, bylaws, and operating policies. So part of the rationale of bringing this forward as an administrative launch is because of the very specific and, because of the very supportive and existing policies that are already in place in the city. I've added a couple or 3 to this slide in particular, but the first one really being the main policy that I think mostly aligns with the work that the authority could do. This was put into place in 2022 and is around disposition of city-owned property. And I highlighted 3, but I have 4 very specific guiding principles that are called out in that disposition policy that I think really potentially could align with the work of an authority. So the first one there being creation of affordable home ownership and rental housing opportunities, of course improving the general condition of neighborhoods while preserving the neighborhood character, creation of affordable and mixed income housing, and then the 4th one is around conveying ownership to responsible parties with priority given to adjacent property owners, which I think is potentially relevant here as well. So as we see this as this is a good opportunity to get started. These are the next steps that we've identified, and want to move sometime in September, if everyone's willing, for a resolution to commission. We want to work to polish the draft articles of incorporation and policies and interlocal agreement. Thanks, Doug. And then work to transition that portfolio of 107 parcels from the State Land Bank to the Economic Development Department. And then, of course, finally, coordinate with partners to explore different collaborations on the portfolio on a going forward basis. With that, I'm happy to take any questions that anyone has, or invite Joseph to help do that as well.
Very good. Manager, you want to add anything before we turn it over to Commission for staff?
No, I just, again, want to reemphasize my appreciation to the staff and the state for their partnership and support over the past few years and moving forward, and looking forward to getting this done. I know this was real important to this body, and I'm glad we've figured out a way forward.
Thank you. Colleagues, we'll open it up. Any questions? Commissioner Robbins?
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner. I just had a quick question just to kind of conceptualize or help maybe people who are listening into this meeting. Could you just give like a quick scenario of how a property would end up in a local land bank?
How it would end up in a local land bank?
Yeah.
So, I mean, tax reverted property, blighted property, could be in a land bank. I don't know, Joseph, would you have anything else you want to add to that? I'm sorry. I feel like that's my quick answer.
Sure.
No worries.
any and all mechanisms. Generally, originally land banking was tax reverted properties. You know, the land bank was created, got the tax reverted properties, knocked the property down, sold to the neighbor, right? So you improve the community. That was land banking 1.0. We are far into about land banking 2.5, and there is any and all mechanisms to get a property into a land bank. Just as a quick example, this week I'm going to sign an agreement with a land conservancy who is partnering with the land bank because they are getting a significant piece of property, but a portion of that property does not meet their mission. So they've come to us and said, could you take this property and work with the community and redevelop it? So we're about to acquire a property from a land conservancy. We've had the city of Brighton give us properties so they could do a significant development within the city of Brighton. So any and all mechanisms we can utilize to be an economic development partner, but for the most part, the 106 you have here in the city, 107 were tax reverted properties.
Right.
Thank you.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think also there's tools for, if a property is foreclosed on, it may have chain of title issues, it may have some things that are difficult to rectify, and the land bank has powers to be able to quiet title, to be able to clean that up so that when a property does go back into, good standing and into the market, you're getting a property with a clean title that's actually marketable and doesn't have any issues lingering in the background.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks for the context. Appreciate it.
Commissioner, if I could, and this also helps us accomplish a couple of things in addition to the redevelopment, but when we have blighted properties in some neighborhoods, improving those will improve both the quality of the neighborhood, safety, and also helps to, with our small-scale developers. We've worked, we've passed an ordinance here that will allow us to work with local nonprofit developers, but in addition to that, we expanded it. If we're not able to sell those properties to nonprofit developers, we also have expanded the potential of local residents who can take advantage of those for redevelopment to create more housing affordability. And hopefully, combined with our new zoning reforms, this should result in much more housing units being produced.
I think historically we got a lot of second lots back too that were technically not buildable lots based on their size and setback requirements, and so I think some of the recent changes we've made to the zoning code will allow some of those lots that historically may have just gotten sold to the neighboring property for a few $1,000s have an opportunity to come back into service as, again, having an opportunity to do a higher and better use on those vacant sites. Colleagues, other questions? Commissioner Goy.
Thank you, Commissioner. I was wondering, you referenced the 107, 106 properties that's currently going to be filling or coming to the local land bank. Do you have any idea of where those properties are located? My reason for my question is that in the third ward, there are some comments or concerns about how much properties are being picked up and not available for even the local residents to purchase or to use.
Yeah, what we've seen is a majority of the portfolio resides in the first and third wards.
Okay.
Please.
Just as by way of background, our work in the land bank has been ongoing for 20 years. We have a disposition strategy for all properties that we give to residents or we pass along or sell. We don't usually make a lot of money on them, but what we do not allow is speculation, because if you're going to acquire a property, we call it disposition. We're not realtors. We don't just put a sign out front and sell it to the next bidder. We make sure that all properties that we go through our disposition process, there is a development plan. There is a strategy. So we're just not throwing hundreds of properties out for speculation. 3 years later, they're right back on the tax roll. So we have strategies to ensure that all the properties that we utilize, and the Grand Rapids Land Bank, but I'm sure do the same, fits the strategy of development in that community. So we're very intentional about how we dispose of properties and make sure it enhances the community.
Thank you.
Other question, Commissioner Sassi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for the presentation. I'm going to say it again. Sarah, you've been busy since you got here, Ms. Raniero. So again, I hope a colleague's
It's been
buying you
fun.
lunch, but we've heard a lot from you. But these are all, I remember I was campaigning when I saw that that resolution took place and passed colleagues, on that body as it was sunsetted. So I know there was a lot of work that city manager, executive staff, and the mayor did to get us to this point, in our legislators. I just had a few questions, and Mr. Chair, I might ask you some of your historical knowledge too. So I know the commentary was, how do we make some best connections with our Brownfield Authority? I think that makes sense. Obviously, I serve on the body, so I probably should give that disclaimer. But I do think that makes sense when we're, what I think we've noticed on that body is, how do we connect all the things that we are doing around housing? And obviously this is an ongoing conversation for this body, but for our residents. This work, the Affordable Housing Fund, the work that we're doing with public-private partnership, work that we've done on zoning, work that our community development department's working with a number of agencies, and that's just kind of scratching the surface of what happens. I think what maybe feels like is overwhelming or not being done is that we're having to pull all these levers together. And so bringing that forward to that body, I think, would make a lot of sense. So I would be supportive, but I wanted to know, Mr. Chair, do you remember who served on that? The Kent County Land Bank Authority, just trying to give context of, makeup and not having assumptions about who would be best to serve.
I do not. I do
Okay.
know that my former colleague, Commissioner Allen, was the chair of the Grand Rapids Land Bank, or the Land Bank when it was open here.
Okay.
The mayor also served.
And the mayor served.
Okay. So just, again, wanting to pair that we think this is a good idea, but also wondering what were some of the different expertise that maybe existed on Kent County? How does that relay? I think sometimes you have bodies for the work to get done, and then you have bodies for the operational aspects of the work. So, just want to not just make some assumptions there. So wanted to share that. I did want to also ask, and this is probably Ms. Renero and city manager and others, how do we mentioned the different departments and obviously different policy pieces, but was there any consideration of any funding that maybe was happening with the land bank, say with community development dollars, or any coordination or connection points there? Is that something to consider? I know the other day we had a presentation and Ms. Bohach, presented on the pilot pieces, and we all know that we see the presentation, but there's a lot of connection points behind the scenes, whether it's planning and economic development, community development and economic development. So just wondered if there was any historical pieces there that would need to be brought up. And then I'll ask the second question, or third question is Affordable Housing Fund. We have that body. City manager, you talked about emerging developers. So how does that fit into some of the plans and discussion? I would also love an update of when is the last time that group met and when they're scheduled to meet again. And then lastly, I think, to your point, and I'm so sorry, I'm forgetting your name, sir.
No worries. Joseph Rivett.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. So just, you said, we're on 2.5, and so I think, again, our community is asking us, what are the tools that we have? So I think there's a consideration of how do we communicate this, about what are those opportunities? So just wondered what a planned communications plan is for that, and as we're talking to community about what this means, so. And timeline. So, thanks.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner. It looks like we have a band of people who are ready, but I'll just start and then ask Ms. Behrens to fill in some of the pertinent details. But I'll go back a little bit to when we had the conversation around additional staffing for economic development and some of the support that was needed. And at the time, it was then Acting Director John O'Cluser. We anticipated having staff that's needed for not only the Growing Corridor Improvement Authorities, but also to support some of the land bank function. And while and they will have to more specifically speak to some of the administrative fees that can be charged for the disposition of properties. But I think that was anticipated. And I know that we've had several programs in the city You mentioned the community development, and we had, a while back, had gotten some funding to deal with blighted properties, and was not able to fully take advantage of those, but I think there are other opportunities we can consider moving forward, and I'll defer to Ms. Behrens on the Affordable Housing Fund and discussions we've had around prioritizing smaller scale development.
Yes, thank you. So with respect to the Affordable Housing Fund Board, met in August, meeting again in September. A couple things that they've decided or given us direction to bring forward at their August meeting relevant to this. Probably the most directly related is that we recommended a couple, what I'm referring to as ad hoc subcommittees of the board to focus on their preferences related to supporting emerging developer and sort of looking for creative opportunities that may arise out of a lot of things that were percolating out here in the community. So there's, and the potential that Grand Rapids would create a local land bank was one of those things we said was percolating, and that may create future opportunities for creative use of the flexible dollars that are in the Affordable Housing Fund. So we said we don't know exactly what might come out of that, but there may become an obvious sort of bridge that more flexible dollars that aren't necessarily needing to be repaid in a time frame, or that can cover kind of pre-development costs that can't otherwise be covered, maybe something that really percolates up once we have a chance to focus really locally on land bank properties and how to really get them out there in the market productively. And so we said we would like to have a subcommittee of that body that as these things develop, we can call on. We can bring technical experts to that body and say, hey, here's an idea. How can we flesh this out for an effective and efficient Affordable Housing Fund Board conversation to get direction on whether those dollars should land. So that is constituting that subcommittee is coming forward in September, and we would use it for that kind of idea. The other thing that the board did, a little bit to your point, is recognizing that the current priority that they have is to develop units at scale, and that the most efficient way to do that for folks that are developing housing right now is to combine and allow the community development process to take a look at how best to braid the funds we have available for those at scale type of projects. So that is something that they are looking for calendar year 2025, and we're coordinating with community development. So yet another lever that makes it a little bit more efficient for Ms. Ranero and her staff to sort of say, all right, what are the city pieces out there and how can we put them together? So for at least 25, we're braiding those dollars together. And then finally, the land bank, I think, can play a role if the Commission chooses to go forward. If you recall, back probably several months ago now, we made a recommendation and the Commission concurred that a few of the land bank properties that we have, particularly in the 3rd Ward, we would reserve from any offers as we layered together the zoning reforms, the pre-reviewed plan sets that planning and community development or planning has worked through the process, and some technical expertise that our housing practice lead has brought to the table to help emerging developers. So in the future, if we have a local land bank, we can identify properties like that could become, again, something we strategically think about layering, partnering, piloting ideas, testing them, seeing if it makes sense to become a program, seeing if we can find community partners to get on board. So that sort of additional focus we're hoping comes out of this. And then finally, to the manager's point, we had identified the need for additional staff in economic development. One of the things we flagged was depending on how much kind of volume of work we can see coming, because if we have a local land bank and some of these other things take a hold, like the housing-related TIF, some of the other policy conversations you're in the midst of now, we may foresee, even additional staffing need. That was something we said we'd talk about on a budget-by-budget basis. So as the volume of work becomes more clear, there may be more on that. That's it.
Timeline?
Oh, timeline for the land bank?
Yeah, if we go back to the 4 steps, I think that was 2 slides ago, City Clerk or whoever's in charge. Do we have a a tentative timeline associated with these. Obviously, this is a briefing today, but.
Yeah, we were hoping to bring the resolution at the next commission meeting, which I believe is September 7th or 10th. I keep mucking it up. 10th. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Again, the first, we're just trying, if you will, for lack of a better term, just to beat the shot clock and get on the wire before we're preempted from doing it. We are going to leverage, obviously, the mayor's experience, both having served on the previous land bank and what we might want to see done similarly or differently in the future as we revise both the policies and practices. But I think the beauty of leveraging the Brownfield Authority is that you all have already made appointments to it. And so we would not have to go through, if you agree with staff recommendation, a reappointment, another process for soliciting interest, we would then just default to the members that are there.
Right.
Yeah.
And that could happen in October, depending on the board there.
So we just, Mr. Chair, to clarify, because you mentioned the shot clock, so that we would just have to pass the resolution. So there's not any other pieces that need to be done to be preempted.
Yeah.
There are actually 5 steps. Oh.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say there are 5 components of establishing. The resolution's 1. It needs to be filed with the clerk and the, right, there's some signatures that have to happen that I believe would establish it officially. And then there's a period of time which I don't see in the act. It might be a question for Joseph, as recommended from the State Land Bank within 45 days to be establishing the interlocal agreement and the bylaws and everything that goes along with that. And so maybe there's some room there or not, but that's what we're seeing.
But beyond those administrative processes, from a legislative perspective from the governing body, the city's commission's affirmation of the resolution, passing of a resolution would satisfy what we need from our governing body.
Yes.
Everything else, we have administrative processes to finalize those other steps.
Once the intergovernmental agreement is signed, we file that, you would file it with your county clerk, city clerk, I don't know, the statute might be unclear on that. We would file it with the Office of the Great Seal, and the minute we file it with the Office of the Great Seal, you have a land bank, and we will hand carry that. So once we have a signed agreement, within a day, you'll officially have a land bank.
All right, thank you. So when we bring the resolution back, we can outline those administrative steps that happen post passage of the resolution.
Sorry for the confusion on that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you so much for your time and this report, and look forward to the next steps. We'll move to our final agenda item this morning, and this is a presentation and update on the City of Grand Rapids sustainability work. And we'll welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner. Before we start, let me first of all thank Ms. Allison Waskey-Sutter, who has dedicated a large amount of her time, passion, and energy to helping us move forward with our value of sustainability, and has done such a good job that she has onboarded Ms. Annabelle Wilkinson, who's done a great job helping us. And today, we've asked Ms. Wilkinson just to highlight for us. I know we had several questions about the city's efforts and commitment towards sustainability, and we wanted to holistically step back and kind of review some of the things that have been accomplished and some of the things that are planned moving forward. So with that, I will turn it over to Mrs. Wilkinson.
Thank you, City Manager. Good morning, Commissioners. Today I'm going to provide, just as the City Manager said, kind of a comprehensive overview of the work that we have around sustainability across departments within the city. As we know, the city is no stranger to sustainability investment, and we have a number of milestones, from really reducing single occupant vehicle usage with financial support for what is now the DASH from the 80s, encouraging smart growth principles from the Community Master Plan 2002, being one of the first cities in the country to adopt sustainability as a priority, becoming one of the first municipalities to provide free curbside single stream recycling for residents, committing to climate resiliency through investments in flood walls, our West Michigan Climate Resiliency Report, being one of the first and only cities to have successfully separated our stormwater and wastewater systems, and also investing in a number of ways of reducing emissions. So constructing a biodigester, construction of our behind-the-meter solar array at the Lake Michigan filtration plant, our new EV micromobility pilot, as well as energy efficiency measures like our LED lights for our street lighting systems. And why we do this is because we have some projected climate changes here in Grand Rapids that are going to happen but are already happening here today. So increasing temperature, it's getting hotter, increasing precipitation, it's getting wetter, and an increase in those extreme weather events. And from a greenhouse gas emissions inventory that we conducted in 2020, it was based on 2019 emissions, we found that climate change is primarily driven from a few major sectors in Grand Rapids. Buildings, both residential and commercial, transportation, as well as industrial uses. And those emissions are predominantly generated from fossil fuel consumption, so natural gas, electricity that we use in our buildings and in our fuel. But also something to know is that amongst these community-wide emissions, it's really just 2.2% of those are city operations. And so why we focus on this, as the city manager said, is because sustainability is one of our 6 core values that guides all of our city work, making decisions with the goal of achieving long-term net positive benefits that are going to help us understand how decisions impact climate resiliency, the environment, people, and finances, both today and in the future. And we see that in our strategic plan, specifically in our health and environment objective 1, to reduce carbon emissions, support climate adaptation, and increase climate resiliency. Obviously, the City Commission's 2024 legislative priority agenda helped really identify those needs and provide support for legislation authorizing around community solar, as well as a number of other renewable energy areas. And how we really perceive these metrics is through some of our targets around greenhouse gas emissions. So we have 2 for municipal and 1 community-wide. For city municipal operations, our greenhouse gas reduction targets are 85% reduction by 2030 from our 2008 baseline and 100% by 2040. As of right now, we're at about a 30% reduction as of 2020. For our city municipal operations, our renewable energy targets, we have a 100% renewable energy goal by 2025. We are expected to hit that 100% renewable energy goal via our renewable energy credit purchases. And lastly, our community-wide greenhouse gas science-based targets were determined in partnership again with ICLEI, our consultant that we worked with on our greenhouse gas emissions inventory. And those science-based targets are 62.8 per capita greenhouse gas reduction community-wide by 2030 from 2019 emissions and 100% by 2050. So how we're working on some of that from our office around municipal is in a variety of ways. So we're working on energy reduction metrics for city facilities, utilities, and fleet in partnership with the National Renewable Energy Laboratory to establish a goal of % of year-over-year reduction in our energy consumption. We're working in partnership with the U.S. Green Building Council of West Michigan on their 2030 automated benchmarking service membership, providing support to track and analyze data for 60 municipal buildings. We just recently accepted an Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant Award from the Department of Energy to fund a contractor to perform municipal energy audits in fiscal year 25. We're working in partnership with Consumers Energy to explore renewable energy programs for the city to really prolong that renewable energy goal for our operations. And then we're also looking at drafting an update to the LEED policy that was established in 2006 to really take into consideration existing green building policy that's going to focus more on modern best practices like incorporating climate mitigation and resiliency into new municipal facility, buildings, and major renovations. We expect that the energy and carbon specialist that we will be hiring will primarily act as a lead for this work. And they're just one of a few positions that we're looking for from a staffing perspective. As the city manager mentioned, we are going to be hiring a chief sustainability officer with recruitment to begin this fall. We're hiring an energy and carbon specialist, again, primarily focusing on municipal energy and carbon reduction strategies, but that's funded through EGLE and the WEGI Foundation for 1.5 years. We also received a grant fund from the WEGI Foundation for an education and engagement specialist, again, focusing internally and externally on climate change education and engagement. And then we recently applied for and were accepted into the Michigan Healthy Climate Corps program, which is the state's AmeriCorps program through EGLE, for a fellow to be a community energy coordinator. And they're going to focus on creating an equitable solarized program, really assisting residents in acquiring solar, as well as working on increasing accessibility for the city's property assessed clean energy PACE program for businesses. And now we're going to head into kind of the more department operational initiatives. We, of course, have to start off with Butterworth Solar. We're currently finalizing an RFP with engineering to hire an engineer of record to conduct a more detailed site analysis and release an RFP for behind-the-meter solar on the site this fall. That is following success of securing $3 million in state funding to complete an extension of the primary circuit to the site. We're currently waiting on some additional information from additional state and federal grants that we expect to hear back from in fall of 2024. Our facilities department is really focusing on installing a new light controlling system at City Hall, feasibility studies for our community archives building for solar panels, installing EV chargers, as well as replacing and potentially looking to electrify boilers and provide energy efficient heat pumps. They also have a train tracer ensemble optimization platform that's really looking to increase energy efficiency potential. In the future, they're going to look at additional feasibility studies for solar opportunities, as well as additional EV chargers and more energy efficiency opportunities. Our fleet is continuing to move more towards low to no emission vehicles. In fiscal year 24, they increased from 9 full electric sedans to 25. It makes our city fleet now at 43% low to no emission, and we expect to be at over 50% by fiscal year 25. This summer, in partnership with our office, Fleet also worked to secure a Catalyst Leadership Circle Fellow in partnership with the University of Michigan to develop a fleet electrification roadmap. And Fleet has also launched a telematics program in their new equipment that's going to monitor idle time, vehicle usage, and vehicle health. And that helps also provide recommendations for vehicles to electrify based upon their usage data. Our Environmental Services Department has put a proposal into the Rapid for producing renewable natural gas as a part of the Rapid's recent RFP. They are also working on a contract to develop their own process for renewable identification numbers, as well as their private renewable natural gas wholesaling opportunities. They submitted congressionally directed spending requests for additional renewable natural gas skid to increase cleaning and production. And also in fiscal year 23, they completed their phosphorus recovery system, separating 40,000 pounds of phosphorus from biosolids. And they're working on a partnership with a fertilizer company that will purchase the phosphorus. From a stormwater perspective, there's a lot of large-scale green infrastructure projects going on, from bank restoration projects in Plaster Creek, stream daylighting in city parks, porous pavement in bioswales and urban centers. From stormwater, they're also working with Eagle on a climate resiliency program and plan update, and are working on FEMA-supported flood mitigation work. They're also prioritizing the installation of green infrastructure in areas experiencing climate and environmental injustices. Our Public Works has been very busy with over 30,000 tons of yard waste and 874 tons of food waste at Domtar. They're also partnering with our innovation lead in a circular economy innovation accelerator program, designing a food scrap pilot drop-off program that they're currently applying for grant funding for. They have innovative partnerships with Prairie Robotics, smart technology using cameras and recycling trucks to reduce contamination, and providing additional diversion options for neighborhood cleanups, including recycling metal scrap and partnering with Goodwill for clothing donations. They're also partnering with Fleet again to move to those low to no emission vehicles. Our mobile GR department continues to provide accessibility to multimodal options, including increasing trips on our Lime program, upgrades for and additional shelters for public transportation, as well as, again, moving to low to no emission vehicles for dash buses, retiring diesels at the end of their service life. They've also, as I mentioned, kind of introduced their DART EV car share program. There are currently 6 locations and 4 new charger installations, and those sites were chosen by analyzing a federal climate and economic justice screening tool, while also looking around at our neighborhoods of focus, car ownership rates, proximity to transit, and geographic equity by ward. Now, our vital streets, our city's 2019 bicycle action plan called for over 100 miles of new bicycle facilities. We're currently at 113 miles of bicycle lanes. Our engineering department recently submitted a grant to the U.S. Department of Transportation to continue the extension of that bike network. That proposed grant would construct over 9.5 miles to extend the gaps in those facilities, connecting schools, businesses, and neighborhoods. And that could also include complementary sidewalk and crosswalk facilities as well. Our Parks and Forestry Department are working on their forestry operations and management plan that will be completed in summer of 2025. They're continuing their maintenance and removal of hazardous trees to enhance the overall health of the tree canopy, as well as increasing use of native plantings and design plans in partnership with our Environmental Services Department for Green Infrastructure Projects and Parks. They're also reducing wood waste from city forestry operations through reuse by providing for composting and community garden wood chips. And they're also working with our Public Works Department on kind of an innovative way to look at a long-term strategy for utilizing forced air burner. So it's going to transform old logs into valuable material for composting. Our emergency management office has been working with neighborhood associations and a community-based organization called the C4 to conduct emergency preparedness focus groups across the city with a focus on climate resiliency. And they've also created the Community Emergency Response Team program to train volunteers to assist families, neighbors, and community members during emergencies when professional responders may not be available. They've also been partnering with our office to integrate climate resiliency into their emergency management plans. And similarly, the Planning Department has been partnering with our office as well to ensure that the community master plan incorporates sustainability and climate resiliency. And we, in turn, in our office, have been working with the planning department to ensure that the applicable community master plan recommendations that are included in their plan are reflected in our forthcoming climate action and adaptation plan. So community-wide work that our office is focusing on, and I know this is a lot, so bear with me. Our climate risk and vulnerability assessment, we are expected to complete this in September of 2024. Essentially what this is a local study that identifies current and future risks that are associated with climate change in our community, that identifies the vulnerabilities and the areas where we can adapt to change. So this is going to help inform those climate resilient actions that are going to be included in that climate action adaptation plan. And how this was created was a review of local and regional climate science and planning documents, as well as input from community members, city staff, and experts. And what is the Climate Action Adaptation Plan? Essentially, it's just a roadmap for how we as a community of Grand Rapids are going to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and prepare for the impacts of climate change. So taking that information from the greenhouse gas emissions inventory and that climate risk and vulnerability assessment. Now, the climate plan is being co-created in partnership with community stakeholders and is based on resident feedback. And it's going to have the following chapters: access to renewable energy, healthy homes, commercial buildings and industry, transportation and vital streets, natural systems, and food systems. And there's 5 overarching themes that'll flow throughout the plan: equity, economic prosperity, health, resilience, and collaboration. Now, initially in 2023, we began engagement for this plan by providing a survey that asked very broad questions, asking how our residents were impacted by climate change, what was a priority for this plan, in their opinion, as well as what do they envision in a just climate future. We took that information as well as kind of gathered climate advisory teams on some of these chapter subject matters, and also deferred to already existing gathered community groups on those subjects and created draft strategies and actions for those chapters. We then went out into community and had an event for each of those chapters from March, and we'll be finishing up in September of the fall. We're currently beginning writing that first draft, and we'll come back to community again to understand, did we hear you correctly? And is there anything missing in this plan? We then will, based upon that feedback, edit the plan and provide for finalization and adoption. Again, as I mentioned, we did have a number of education and engagement events around the climate risk and vulnerability assessment, as well as the climate plan, but we're also working on increasing and promoting climate knowledge generally with a public e-newsletter, resources for residents on our climate change webpage, free staff and public climate change series, including an introduction to climate change, how to communicate about it, working internally with our innovation lead on staff innovation challenges around climate change, and social media and press releases. We also fully expect that this work to progress further as we hire our education and engagement specialist. The last other initiative that we're really focusing on in our office is the EH0 initiative, and that stands for Policies and Programs for Equitable, Healthy, and Zero Carbon Buildings. And it primarily focuses on commercial buildings and single-family residential. And that's because when we look specifically at our building emissions, those were the 2 areas that had the most emissions in that building sector. And the purpose of this program is to really create 1, strategies to include in the Climate Action Adaptation Plan, and 2, propose recommendations to city leadership for potential policies and/or programs that reduce carbon emissions from buildings, which we hope to bring to you in the fall. This also includes a home renovation pilot to test energy efficiency upgrades and while improving health and housing affordability. From the residential side, our key partners have been our Community Development Department, as well as the Urban Core Collective, Elevate Energy, and the Green Home Institute. Again, residential in this sense means single-family units that are 4 or less, both rental and owner-occupied. Our Residential Climate Advisory Team was launched earlier in this year to provide those strategies and actions for review for the climate plan. And our home renovation pilot has raised $250,000 through MISHA's My Hope program, again in collaboration with our Community Development Department. We plan to track economic and health outcomes over time. They're planning to explore additional ways to collaborate around weatherization with utilities and explore additional funding opportunities. From the commercial building side, the key partner has been Grand Rapids 2030 District, managed by the U.S. Green Building Council of West Michigan. And this has been focusing largely on larger commercial buildings over 10,000 square feet. Now, a commercial building climate advisory team was launched earlier in 2023 to really take into account large building owners as well as various stakeholders that might be able to provide feedback on the barriers and challenges that we may face for various policies and program recommendations, as well as creating, again, the Climate Action Adaptation Plan recommendations for this chapter. Now, one thing I like to know for climate change is that while we've been doing a lot of local work, this is not defined by our city limits. This is a regional, state, national, global issue. And so we've been doing a number of regional collaborations from participating as a member of the White House's Building Performance Standards Coalition, intervening in Michigan public service cases, providing testimony for the Michigan State Senate hearing for community solar, partnering with our regional planning firm, Grand Valley Metro Council, to create a comprehensive climate action plan on how to reduce greenhouse gas emissions regionally, as well as participating in multi-state Midwestern collaborations for grant awards that we're awaiting award details for. I know that was a lot of information, and I also may not have all of the answers, so I might have to phone a friend, but happy to take any questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation, and I'll turn it over to my colleagues and see if there's any questions about anything in the presentation. Commissioner Knight.
I don't know if it necessarily. Thank you for this. It was a lot, but it's good information, and really appreciate that. I'm sure some of our climate activists in the community are appreciative of some of the work that we're doing. I just have one question as to when you guys did the outreach piece of it. Like, do you have a list of all of the community partners that were a part of this conversation as you were beginning to develop that? And if I could see that, that would be great.
Absolutely, I can compile it for you and get that to you, Commissioner Knight.
And then the other piece that popped up, which you kind of addressed, was talking about LEED certified buildings, and that was the first thing that popped in my head before you got to that slide, was that you don't hear a whole lot about that, and I know we had a huge focus on that for a long time, but now we have a lot of new development coming in, and I don't hear a whole lot about LEED certified buildings, green buildings, any of that kind of work that's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think based upon LEED has had a number of versions over the years and updating, and there's been some conversation on if they truly address climate adaptation and climate mitigation to the best of that ability. And so that's something that, while LEED does a number of great things from a policy perspective, we were going to see if we could build out something that's inclusive of some of the LEED standards, but also how can we go further? So that's something that our office is going to take a look at to hopefully, I think we're aiming for this fall to have a potential policy written up.
That's great, because I know the state was working on spending some dollars before this next administration hits on affordability and access, especially for EVs and things like that, for people who typically cannot afford those types of things. And especially solar is really important for our homes. So I appreciate the work on that and hearing the next information that comes out.
Thanks, Commissioner Knight.
Colleagues, any other comments or questions? Commissioner Isasi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Ms. Wilkinson, you did a really good job of taking us all down memory lane. I remember going to one of Mayor Hartwell's State of the Cities, and at the time I had worked at Cascade Engineering, and that's where I first learned about sustainability. And I need to get a new recycling cart though, James. Mine broke. 15 years old. But no, it's exciting to see this, and I have a couple. I wanted to share those comments because I think sometimes we do forget, just like we had that conversation of housing, of all the things that are done. Recently, I don't always like to bring this up, but recently we had received, a standard kind of, I don't know, not really a petition, but a call to action, if you will, around being a climate justice leader. And as a leader on this dais, I think it's really easy to get defensive. It's really easy to say, like, we're doing a lot of stuff, and you have to listen to people. After this presentation, I think that this is why it's so helpful sometime. Yes, you talked about kind of what the office looked like. Even there are some cities that don't have this office, and I don't think our goal is ever to be the minimum. I think the city does everything at a high level of excellence. But I started thinking about all the departments that are involved in this work. And so I do kind of take a step back and say the investment might only be seen in this way in the sustainability office. But if I look out in this room and I see all the people that you just talked about who are connecting and coordinating and communicating and talking to community and coming back, and I don't even know what that number is, city manager, but it is a significant number. So what that tells me is that we are figuring out how to do things with the reality of what is our city budget, right? Some of us on here, more than others, have seen increases in things that we feel have been challenging. Maybe we don't have as much control over, like our district court. We've had this evolving conversation. And so I think seeking out grants that make sense both locally and nationally are actually one of the more responsible things that we can do. That's also another significant investment. So I don't know, but Molly Claren, Miss Claren, figure out that number because I'm sitting here and I'm saying, many of us are leaders in our own organization and other community organizations. I would say there is a significant total investment that every single department in this city is working on. And then individually, I know there's a number of city staff that are very committed to making sure our actions and our priorities, that's a voice that is also important to us, is that employee voice. So I just wanted to say that because I think kind of the squeaky wheel gets the attention sometimes, and I wanted to really highlight this attention. And all of you who are watching, who are part of this work, thank you, City of Grand Rapids employees, for making sure that we are climate justice leaders. Today is the day where we say, we talk about climate change. They have to have waivers, right, Mr. Chair, for schools to start early before Labor Day. They're probably going to be asking for waivers to start later because it's so hot, and it's going to be so hot this week. And so also just thinking about all the people who are working outside on our city staff on these incredibly, incredibly hot days. So I guess that's a little grandstanding, but I think it's important. I wanted to ask one specific question as it related to electric charging stations. And I think Commissioner Knight asked that. I just wanted to dig a little bit more. I know that a couple of our neighborhood associations have asked, how do those get decided? I know there was one in one of our parking lots downtown that was, delayed and getting repaired for a while. That was maybe a year and a half ago. And my apologies if you did highlight that and I didn't pay enough attention or hear that. So I wanted to talk about that. I also think as we continue to be a destination city manager, that is another really interesting selling point. And I'm wondering how our partners at, say, like Inexperience Grand Rapids are getting involved in those efforts. And I know you serve on the board. I don't know if the mayor does still, but I think that's an interesting component. I'm glad to see that the Kent County Community Action, that you have them listed as, some opportunities to collaborate. I think I had our meeting, I chair that board as a city commissioner, and the activities that they're doing, they're really leveraging and trying to connect and braid, and I think they're right on the same path that you and our city staff are. And then my last real question on the electric charging stations, and then can you share, I didn't see in here, like our Grand Rapids Housing Commission. Again, I realize another authority, but city manager, you serve on that authority. And we're talking about, obviously, the size of units and what it contributes to. So I just wondered, has that been a connection point? If not, how are we connecting, or do they have their own similar plan? So thank you. Thank you for your work.
Well, why don't I
Would you like to go first?
Stab and then you can fill in. How's that? So On the investment, you're right, Commissioner Sassi. The reason why sustainability is a core value because we see it just as equity or innovation. It's not just one department's responsibility, it's an expectation throughout the entire organization. So the presentation you saw was how we have been able to intentionally embed that value. To such, when we present the annual budget, the over $600 million budget, and we aggregate disaggregate the budget by strategic function, strategic objective, the largest investment in our budget is health and environment. And I can't remember what the number is. We can certainly get that out again. And we remind the community that to such, one of the things that was surprising to me is oftentimes we talk about the current state and we forget what the initial state was. In 2018, to the electrical vehicles, we had 3 electric vehicles in our city fleet. And today you heard the report of 25. And so there are similar other investments, and I wish I had the answer on the infrastructure charging stations, how many we had 5 years ago versus now. Maybe Ms. Wilkerson or someone from Mobile GR can help us with that, both public as well as like other cities. There's also the private, the Tesla charging stations that you see other vehicles have throughout the community to become more of a destination of choice. So I will see if we have that answer. If not, we certainly can get. I know it's answerable because we've talked about it previously.
I wasn't sure it was Mobile GR wants to come up and phone a friend.
So yeah, Mobile GR in 2009 installed 5 public charging stations under the Obama administration, and we received federal grant funding at that time. So since then, with the car share program, we are expanding to 4 neighborhood lots, so that's an additional amount of public charging stations. And then obviously there have been fleet charging stations that have been installed to support the city's vehicle fleet. And then I believe also, and I'm not wanting to speak for planning entirely, but around 2018 timeframe there was some policy that was modified for any new development that included parking that had 99 or more spaces. There needed to be 1 public charging station installed per 100 spaces.
Looks like it would be helpful for us to kind of compile both public and private charging stations that are available in the community.
As a follow-up, Ms. Casper, is the Ford neighborhood with the car share, so are those, I know we had that presentation not that long ago. What are the locations again?
West Fulton, Madison Hall, East Town, Ethel Lot. Oh, do you have it for me?
One far east. Northeast.
And Burton Division.
Got it. Great. Sorry I missed that on the slide. Thank you.
And relative to the Housing Commission, while I help to appoint, I don't actually sit on the authority, so I do know there are some sustainability efforts that they have implemented in some of their campuses, and we can get that information back. There's one other element I did want to I guess a couple of things. One on, I think it's on the environmental services slide 16, and just to make sure the commission's aware of it. We're certainly, I think, one of the leaders in our state and country around reducing carbon emissions and reuse of reuse of solids to produce biogas. And one of the things I wanted to highlight is that second bullet in terms of our Environmental Services Department. When we created the biodigester, it was a capital investment for the city, significant capital investment, but we saw the return on investment due to the selling of the gas and partnering with DTE and the Rapid in terms of the local transportation company that would be using the gas. DTE would help us get the gas from our plant to the Rapid station. There's been some EPA change in EPA regulation it has somewhat affected the partnership that we have had. It's still in place now. But that bullet speaks to our bid now. The Rapid has gone out for proposals to seek responses of those who can both supply the gas and report the credits for renewable energy. And previously, DTE was doing all of that. We were partnering with DTE, and they were both transporting as well as reporting the credits. So we have submitted a proposal. We're waiting on the response from the Rapid. But I just wanted to communicate that, because when we had that capital investment, part of our long-term sustainability of the biodigestion factored into the relationship we have with the Rapids. So hopefully we will continue to be successful in maintaining that relationship. If not, there are other consumers that would like to buy the gas, but we'd like to see that gas being redistributed locally and used in our own community.
I just have one follow-up, City Manager. So I want to make, and then was that in May, right after the budget review, when there was an article about, us achieving our carbon neutral goals, and then that was around the discussion of like the REITs, and what is that percentage? What was that total number of? Is that the right language? A REIT? Recs. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's separate from the Rapid discussion,
okay.
But I can't remember the dollar. I think, did you reference that in the presentation, Ms. Wilkinson?
I didn't reference the amount of money we spent on RECs, but yes, our RECs that we purchased for fiscal year 24 and fiscal year 25 will help us meet our 100% renewable energy targets for our municipal operations.
Can we highlight what that number, I think that's, this is the question of, what are we doing, and then how do we achieve? This is obviously something in the market that is, certainly acceptable. And I know we've been transparent about it. I think that's a question that I pretty regularly get from community.
Ms. Matthews, do you know that number offhand? All right.
So we had originally set aside $250,000 for 1 year of RECs. What we were able to do was actually use that $250,000 and purchase 2 years worth of RECs to cover the gap that we currently have. One of the things that will be coming forward in the next 12 to 18 months is a conversation about what happens after that. We currently also we purchase a version of RECs through Consumers Energy in a legacy program that expires in 2028. So we're having conversations with them about what a future program would look like. In fact, they've gone to the legislature to make some changes, not the legislature, I'm sorry, to the MPSC, to make some changes specifically so that we can participate in that program on a 3-year contract. That would truly localize our investment in renewable energy and still give us the benefit that we currently get from the RECs. So that's something that we're talking about. We talked about yesterday, and it'll be a conversation as we're moving into the next budget year so that we can get on a longer-term track while we continue to make our investments.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Is that, what's the end of the 2-year period?
Our current 2-year period is for 25 and 26 because you can't retroactively purchase RECs, so we can't cover 24 for energy that we've already used.
Could we also, not right now, but in just a future email of what other municipalities might be in this legacy program?
Yeah, we can find out.
Okay, thanks.
Very good. Any additional questions or comments? All right. Hearing none, thank you so much for that presentation, and we will wrap up our Committee of the Whole here at 11:23, and just a reminder, Commissioners, we'll be down in the Law Library. Thank you all.